No, we won't be finishing it today. So you always have to be so loud out here. My pipes. What? You know what? Get off here. Put this on here. I don't have to stretch my arm to the moon. So that's the upstate. Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Alright guys, so we are working on some exhaust for my dad's Shovelhead, and we are working on getting a baffle ready for it. We've actually just puzzled together like 3 different sets of exhaust, and it's working out pretty good so far, so let's just have a look. So this was actually originally a set of shotgun pipes that someone gave us. Thank you, Cousin Jerry, rest in peace. And they didn't actually quite fit on the bike at all. They were kind of lined up super weird and nothing really fit. So we've just cut things and twisted things and done whatever we needed to get things to fit. We're turning it into a 2-into-1. So we've got that all welded up here. Back here we just kind of had to cut a sliver out of the back of the pipe just to kind of change that angle a little bit and push it in towards the bike a little bit closer. And then over here, this was actually kind of coming out quite a ways, so we cut that and we just kind of turned the pipe just to bring that all in a little closer to the bike also. And now from this point, we're just working on getting a muffler and a baffle and everything made up for it. So this is what we're working with now for our baffle, and we've actually got pieces from a couple pipe sets here. So we've got our fishtail pipe here. This is actually a piece from the same muffler that the fishtail came off of, and this was actually like twice the length as what it is now. So we cut that in half and we knocked the baffle out, and we've shortened the baffle quite a ways too. So we've shortened the baffle just about 2 inches on either end, and then we took and ground these welds off, and we took the bell ends off the either end of the baffle, and we've shortened those up too quite a bit. So we cut probably about 3/4 of an inch off of either of these bells. So we've shortened that baffle up quite a bit because we didn't want to have a big long heavy muffler on here. So that'll be about the length of our muffler, and then our fishtail will go on the end of that. And then this piece of pipe over here is actually from a set of Sportster pipes. Fits pretty much perfectly into this chunk of pipe here, and then that will be what we weld to our set of old shotgun pipes that are on the bike right now. So we're going up from 3/4 inch to this bigger chunk of pipe here, and that should give us pretty good muffler and pretty good airflow and everything else, and it's gonna look good with this fishtail on there, and pretty soon we will have a full set of exhaust going on the bike. Okay, so everything is tacked together on the exhaust now, and it's looking pretty good, guys. Show you it from the back, and it actually tucks into the bike very nicely, which is what we like. So we actually puzzled together a few different pipes here, and then to make our 2-into-1 section, we did have to do a little bit of a patch job, and the welds look a little lumpy because our wire is actually too fat to weld thin tin like this and have it look nice, but it's all we got and it works. So I'll just clean that up a little bit, but it's looking pretty good. It's tacked together for the most part. And I almost forgot to show you guys these mounts that we made for the front fender, which is just super simple. We just used a piece of 1/8 inch steel plate, and we did whatever appropriate measuring we had to do to get the holes for the fender and whatever spacing and holes we needed for the forks. And then we just had a couple aluminum spacers that we made actually out of some 1/2 inch aluminum plate with a couple hole saws. And we just hole sawed out the aluminum and painted it up, and it's not the most fancy, but it works and it looks good, and it looks good enough for a rat bike. And another thing we did too that I haven't shown you guys yet is just our brake stop here, which is also just pretty simple, just made out of some flat bar, and we just bent it. We had to put a little bit of a bend in it just to get our angles and everything correct. We found a spacer that ended up being the right width for what we needed there to actually reach the brake mount. Our rear brake is nice and solid, so that's not moving around. And it looks pretty good. And now we're just going to continue and finish up this exhaust. So with the exhaust done, now we can move on to the last big job of this project, or the last most involved job of this project, which is the wiring. So I need to do a little bit of a disassembly of the bike just so we can get at everything that we need to bring wires to. And then we'll be able to string some wires through this thing, and yeah, we'll be getting a little bit closer to the end of the tunnel. So this big old mess here, spaghetti factory, is what came off of this Shovelhead. I actually just hung it here to show you guys. And for comparison, this is the wiring diagram for what we will be doing as a harness on the bike. So first things first is taking off that back wheel and whatever else needs to come off so that we can get some wires in this thing. Okay guys, so I just have the cowling off the bike, and I wanted to show you guys while it's all taken apart just the lower triple tree here. This was actually an FXWG triple tree here, and you might be able to tell that these mounting points aren't stock. So my dad actually added the mounting point for the cowling here and the cowbells onto the FXWG triple tree that he had at the time. So that's just something, if you guys are doing something, one of these projects, as a lot of you know, this bike started out as an FX and we're turning it into an FL. So we didn't have a lot of the FL parts, so we just kind of modified and have worked with what we've had. So this is what that triple tree would have originally looked like. It just wouldn't have had any of this mounting points here because it would have just been for a regular wide glide front end, and it wouldn't have had any of that extra stuff like the cowbells and the cowling. A little idea if you guys want to do the same kind of thing. It's actually simple if you know how to do fabricating. So the bike goes together and it comes apart. It goes together and then it comes apart. And right now it's apart because we're working on the wiring. We've pretty much got it all sorted out, and that is the extent of what our wiring harness is going to be, what you see laying on the bench here. We've already started shrink tubing it together and just getting it all soldered wherever we needed to solder any splices. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just about done. Well, there it is, guys. The bike, it's all done. Woohoo! Just kidding, but the wiring's done. So we've got it all hooked up here for the most part. And we got it all these little wires going where they're gonna go. Got everything done up. Got our ground wires for our headlight there and stuff. And then, yeah. You guys saw like the extent of the wiring harness sitting on the bench there, but this is it on the bike. Not much to it. We kept it pretty minimal. So we've got everything plugged in. The only things that we still got to work on down here are our brake light switch. So we're just going to test it, make sure everything works, and then we'll actually route it where it's going to stay on the bike, and we'll tie it all down and everything. But we've actually got a handy dandy little way of testing this stuff. So we've got this old Paco, or Paco, I don't know how do you say that, but we've got this old Paco battery charger here, and it's a 6 and 12 volt. So we've got it switched to 12, usually all the time. And then we can control our voltage here and whatever. It's just a pretty cool system. So we've got these cables here. So we just hook those up to these posts that are hooked up to the positive and negative on the battery charger. And then we got these ends here with the alligator clips on them. We'll hook those up to ground and power on the bike, and then we'll test everything with that, and it's super handy. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so I'm hooked up here to power. I got a little bit of a extra jumper cable there for length. Well, we're going to power here, and we got the ground down there. You can't really see it. And we got a test light, and the test light's just for testing the ignition. But everything else is hooked up to its switches and stuff. So I'm just gonna power this on. Power. We got our light, tells us that we're on. These are my lights. Neutral light in the middle, that's my low pressure light. So I'll shift it out of neutral. Neutral light goes off, back into neutral. That's my high beam indicator. That would be the generator according to the dash, but we're gonna do it as a high beam indicator. So you gotta turn this one more notch so the lights are actually coming on. So that's high beam on now. My high beam, and then Dad will turn on the low beam. Low beam, you can't really tell the difference in the video, and my battery charger doesn't actually supply enough power to power those the way they would be. And there's a brake light. So that's working. And then we've got our ignition down here, and that's what I'm going to use the test light for. So with ignition on, there we go, test light coming on to you. And what we're working on now on the bench here is this switch that we're going to actually be our battery cutoff switch, because it's a good idea to have a battery cutoff switch if you're running an electric start, because anybody who knows anything about Harleys knows that these solenoids sometimes can get stuck, causing a whole bunch of problems that you don't want. So what we're going to be doing with this switch here is we're just actually going to make the bracket here out of just some aluminum angle, and yeah, we just want to be able to mount that to the bottom of the battery box, kind of around here-ish, somewhere roughly, where it's easy to get at, so that if we have catastrophe, we can quickly shut it down. Hey guys, another day and another list of things to get done on the bike, and another list of things that we've gotten done on the bike. So a few things have happened since I last filmed, and I just want to show you guys what we've done, and then we will do a little more and I will show you guys again. So I got my switch thing all made up, just my little bracket here that I just had to drill out pretty much just to fit the switch in. And these switches, actually, for anybody who's interested, who might want to do this, because it is a good idea to have a battery cutoff switch on some of these bikes, because depending on what year your bike is or how old it is or whatever, the solenoid can get stuck, and that'll just keep your starter spinning, and then you'll end up burning out a starter. And I've known people who have replaced multiple starters just because they didn't have a switch. And we had trouble finding a small enough switch that it wasn't going to be massive and clunky and just in the way of everything. But we did find this one on a website actually called Temu, but you can also get them on Amazon. I think they're around 30 bucks on Amazon. They could be more. We paid like 12 bucks for this one on Temu, but I think on Amazon they're around 30, maybe up to 50 bucks Canadian. And this is actually a 200 amp switch, and you want to have at least 200 amps. So if your starter does end up stuck, you can just cut it down, and you don't have to worry about burning out your starter too. So we've got the brake permanently mounted, and that's just our brake stop. We had to modify a little bit just because we couldn't get the proper fittings to make it so that this brake line would clear the shock with the way that our caliper was sitting, because normally this caliper sit a little further back than where we've got, and ours was actually sitting further forward, and our brake line just wasn't able to clear the shock because we couldn't get the proper degree for an adapter. We couldn't get the 45-degree adapter that we needed. So that's all done. The rear brake is all done, and it just needs to be juiced up. We've got the chain, it just needs to be cut to length. And I've got my breather filter set up here. So ours is actually, we're gonna run a dry primary, and we just have our breather is actually just gonna breathe onto the chain just to keep that lubricated. And then we just have a breather coming out the back of the primary there. Another thing I wanted to show you guys here is just this little button that we've got. Make sure the bike's off before I go pressing that. This is actually just kind of like a little button we've got here. So on our solenoid, we've actually eliminated the switch that would normally go on the bars for the start switch. And we've also eliminated this component here, which would be our solenoid relay switch, I believe is what it is called. So we've eliminated that and the switch on the bars just by putting on this little thing just to jump the solenoid here. And this is actually a feeler gauge that we bent and shaped just to fit here. So you can eliminate a couple things and some wiring just with this little thing here, and you just press that onto the post there, and that'll start the bike. So it's pretty handy. I just wanted to show that to some of you guys who might not know. So that's the update so far, guys. And we've got like 5 days till Shovelfest, so we really got to cram, and we actually have to have this done before I leave for Shovelfest. So yeah, we've got like 2 days. I just finished painting my pipes, and not these pipes, but the ones that are going on the bike. And we got 2 days left, guys. 2 days to finish this thing. I want to have it done today, hopefully. At the end of the day, hopefully today, I'll be done with this thing, and we'll be ready to pack up for Shovelfest on Friday. But right now I've got a carburetor to rebuild, and the bike is a lot more finished than it actually looks. Yeah, we've done everything basically from here back is finished. So we got our battery in, we got our brakes done, we got our chain guard on, we got our chain on, we got our rear wheel permanently mounted, chain set, oil cooler on there, and we gotta just basically put the bodywork back on, but we gotta do fuel and oil lines first. We got our seat figured out. It's not on right now, but we got that figured out. We're actually putting this seat on it for now because that was the quickest to fit. And you all know that a bike can go from looking like this to being rolling down the road within a matter of like an hour, so it's not far. But I've got a carburetor to rebuild slightly, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm just doing a little rebuild on it, just a body rebuild, because the carburetor was working before it came off the bike and it worked fine, so I'm not going to bother with the jets or anything like that. I'm just going to replace some gaskets and stuff because it's kind of gotten a little crusty in the cupboard. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
Okay, see what happens.
Well, there it is, guys. It is off the stand, and it is pretty much finished. We're pretty much finished it. There's a couple things we definitely are gonna have to actually finish, but the goal was to get it done in time for Shovelfest, and we did that. So that means we've accomplished our goal for now. But it does need a shakedown ride still, so there will probably be a few things that pop out of the woodwork that we'll end up having to fix on it, because that's just how it goes with old projects. And there are a couple things that we do need to get still, because that air cleaner cover is one that I stole off my Dyna. And then I do need a kicker arm, because we do not have a kicker arm. The master cylinder on the handlebars is not going to stay there. We're going to actually do like a remote master cylinder kind of setup, kind of like my Shovelhead. We probably will eventually change the seat too, because the seat is not going to be a permanent thing on there. That's actually for a different bike. So I'm going to have to learn how to ride a jockey shift so that I can give this thing a good shakedown ride and just work out any bugs that might need to be finished up on it. But yeah, it's pretty much a finished project, guys. Well, so far as a Shovelhead is ever a finished project. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be editing my Shovelfest video very soon. So if you guys are waiting for Shovelfest videos, stay tuned on my channel. Turn on the notification bell if you want to know every time I put a new video out. And like always, my lovely YouTube people, if you like what you see, or if you just like me, even if you don't like me but you like my bikes, then like, comment, subscribe, do all those things you guys do. And like always, my lovely YouTube people, I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Peace. Ooh, that's a hard turn. Push my clutch in because I'm paranoid. And I cannot actually end the video without starting the bike, so we're gonna start the bike. smoky. Sounds good though. Teeny. Tiny. Why do you look so mad? Are you hangry, Tiny? Fatty. Fat little jerk. What an angry cat. Definitely the spirit of Garfield living in this one.